I gotta make a blooper video, dude.
Just me making random. These literally 30 minutes.
You just
of me
doing crazy shit.
Of me just being like actually psychotic.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome back to Colors or Crutch. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded Satellite, and I'm joined by the most amazing, incredible, fucking on a journey co-host that I'm ever gonna have, Max Pfefferman, Max P, the flooring guy, the Italian man. He's here with us today. How you doing today, Max?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. I'm feeling like awake, alert, ready to go. Let's fucking do it.
Those energy
like,
levels.
lots of energy. All this energy, dude. I don't know where it's coming from.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's coming from your body eating itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what's happening. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for those that don't know, I've embarked on a crazy weight loss diet thing through a local hospital. So I'm on full meal replacements right now. So I'm eating like 1,200 calories a day or something like that, and my body is literally eating itself. But it's so weird because I feel like way more energy. I'm like way more alert. I feel sharper. Like it's crazy. It's only been 3 days and I already feel like that. So
nice. We're in like reverse roles right now. You're losing weight and I'm like trying to bulk up and put on even more muscle.
Yeah, I'm just gonna burn off all the fat and reveal all the muscle that's underneath. Yeah, I'm gonna be jacked before you know it.
I got shown a picture of Max from 6 years ago, and that, you know, I call him my dad. In that picture, he was daddy. Is what I learned.
Yes. Yeah. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there quick. And I'll, I tweeted about it. I'll keep y'all updated as it goes. You know, how much weight I'll lose. It's gonna be about 6 months worth of work, and then I'm gonna be a new man. It's gonna be cool. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
But with that, like that's you know, what have you been up to? I heard you played in a little tournament over the weekend. What happened?
I did. I've been playing in bronze events lately. I hadn't played in any bronze events, and they're like really good for points. So I've been going to these bronze events every Saturday. I've now won back-to-back weekends. First two I went 4-1 on Kinnan, and because it's 4 rounds and then cut to top 4. And then this past weekend I just went clean sweep 5-0. They're fun. It's a good event. I'm with good players there, like a lot of known faces, and I'm just back on a Kinnan grind, and it feels good. It feels like I went on a vacation for a while, and I appreciated that vacation. I learned a lot about the world on that vacation, and now I'm back home, and I'm just appreciating all the things I loved about being home, and that's what Kinnan's for me right now. Like, I enjoyed Italian, I enjoyed Ob, I enjoyed all the other fucking decks I messed around with, and I'm just grinding Kinnan right now and having a fucking blast. And it was super funny because me and Ian had like a little back and forth on Twitter the last couple weeks because we kept passing each other on the leaderboard when we would just like win events day after the other for the 3 and the 4 spot. And then going into this event, I was like, okay, if I win again, I'm passing Ian a waffle. And when I was in Punt City, I was at Ian's place for a little get together, and I wanted a tank top. I wanted to take off my sweatshirt, so he gave me one of his tank tops to borrow, and I was like, I might not give this back. And he kind of gave me a "that's fine if you don't" answer. So I still have that tank top. So when I was like getting ready to go to the event, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna pass Ian wearing his tank top, and I did. So
that's hilarious, dude.
It was funny. It was a good time. But those are some good games. I got to pass the turn in one of those games with a Perplexing Chimera, Seaborn, Homeward Path, and One Ring on the battlefield.
That's sick, dude.
It felt really good. It felt really, really good. Yeah, I'm having a blast on the deck. I haven't played any events in the last few weeks, but I've been kind of experimenting with a bunch of different decks. I've been playing some Tim Najeska. I've been still playing some Italian. Been playing some Florian. Even playing some Roxai. So just trying to get a feel for as the meta shifts, like what the hell makes sense to play right now. So I'm working on that. It feels like you've been on a journey of you used to really like winning the game, and then you got really good at telling everyone they couldn't win the game, and now you're kind of like, I want to win the game again.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I need a little break from control, dude. I'm like, Italian, great deck. It's fantastic, but I want to win. I'm tired of just sitting there.
Our Italian experiences have been so different lately. You're hating the deck, and I'm loving it more and more. Like I'm grinding Kinnan right now, but every time I play Italian, it goes great.
It's wild how differently that deck performs depending on like who you're playing with and the meta you're playing in. if I'm playing in my LGS, the deck is great. It's performing fantastic. If I go and play on like the Discord, I play on the private Discord. I play on a lot. Woof, it's been rough, dude. It's been absolutely rough.
I do wonder how much of that is you won the monthly league just grinding them on Talion, and now they just might over-respect Talion and say the way to beat this is to say fuck you. You deal with everything, and we do nothing.
I mean, that's happening a lot.
Yeah, I think that's them adjusting to you to an extent. Just saying,
to put it into perspective, if you look at the last 4 months of the league that I'm in, including this month. So 3 months ago, I was in second place. Then I was in first place. Then I was in second place, and now I'm in last place. So, woo! What a swap! Yeah, what a difference a month makes. Yeah, so before we get into anything today, we have some pretty fucking amazing news. And that is we have not 1,000, not 1,500, but 2,000 subscribers. 2,000, baby. 2,000.
Yeah, we did it. It's so good to see, dude.
I was going to dance. You stopped. I was going to dance. But yeah.
Yeah, no,
it's so exciting, dude. To put it in perspective, like we started this thing, like my goal was always kind of laughable, which is like I always loved watching and listening to Into the North, the podcast Into the North, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we one day had more subscribers than them?
Took 9 months.
We do. We have more, and I love those guys, and we have more subscribers than them. What? That's wild, dude.
It's a cool thing. It's a really super cool thing. I'm super proud of it.
Very excited.
Yeah, it's been.
So we should do something. We should do something.
9-10 months, something like that is what it took.
Yeah, we should do something about it. Like we should give something away.
Well, we are going to do something about it, and we are doing a giveaway. Fun fact: the giveaway is going to be a bit of a surprise, which you will be receiving. But what we will say is it will be some things connected to this channel. We know what we're giving away. This is not our cop out till we don't know yet. It is just we're keeping it a surprise. But you will get a package of things that will be cool Magic related stuff that is related to the channel. In order to enter this fun little giveaway, please do us the solid of liking and subscribing if you have not subscribed already. And please leave a comment in the comments below, where I would love if you could say what your favorite thing that has happened in any Colors or Crutch related moment has been so far on our journey to 2,000 subscribers. Anything we've done that's really hit home with you or connected with you, anything we've done that you've really enjoyed, and also feel free to add in any suggestions of like topics you would love us to cover or things you would like us to start doing, something related to the show. We're looking for as much feedback, as much joy, as much positivity as possible. So yeah, that's how you're gonna enter. Just like, subscribe, comment, and we will select someone in probably about 2 weeks.
Yeah, but in any case, we're talking about meta shifts. That's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Is the meta has shifted a bit, and we're going to talk about what cards are kind of underplayed right now, or not necessarily underplayed, but are perfect for the way that the meta is shifting. We're going to talk about some ways that the meta could shift in the future and what might make sense for that. And we're going to go into those cards and talk about them a little bit and give our own little philosophies on how to adjust, when the meta shifts. So, okay. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously I'm not adjusting to metas is important, and that's one of those things where there's some decks that don't do it as well. Like Kinnon's a good deck that doesn't really change for the meta because Kinnon already has the pivot ability of being turbo midrange or stacks, and you can just change your play patterns with the meta rather than the card choices. But definitely when I'm coaching Kinnon, I have conversations with people. What are you seeing in your meta? And if they see less Rogside blue farm non-creature spell based stuff, and they're much more like, oh, there's a Slicer player, there's a Winota player, there's a Jetmir player, like much more of that onboard stuff. I'm like, cool, let's take out some of this more on the stack, non-creature spell hate interaction. Let's give you an extra Kogla effect. Let's give you, a little bit more removal or something like that. You do want to make minor adjustments, but not overarching adjustments. Yeah, agreed. And it feels to me like the further you are on either end of the spectrum in terms of turbo or control, the more you need to adjust the deck to the meta shift. Like if you're a mid-range deck parked in the middle, like Kinnon, for example, or even Blue Farm, like you need less adjustment to do well, definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, the meta to me, the current meta to me,
how do you read it right now?
Yeah, I think we've accelerated. I think we were in mid-range hell for a while. And I think that finally people figured out, like, hey, this is an opportunity for me to go turbo and get underneath all those mid-range decks and seize those, tap out on turn 2 to play Ristic Study to just go win, right? Like, that's your window, like, win now. And I think that's panning out. If you look at the tournament results over the last 3 or 4 months, you're seeing more and more turbo decks perform extremely well. In particular, Rogsai, I think, is going to be extremely powerful going forward. And if you look at the Modern Horizons leaks, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So I think I think that's the meta. Turbo. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think the meta is two things. I think it's turbo and decks that break parity with Rhystic Study, and the best example of that will always be Sisay. Sisay, and also that's a big reason why Magda is doing super well. Magda also does not cast a lot of spells, and I think there's two main cards that we're going to talk about that work really well against the Rogsai and the Sisay style decks, and then there's another card that we're interested in right now as well, which when you're looking at a proactive turbo meta, right, the answer isn't I'm going to go faster. It sometimes is. Sure, if you want to play Crick and give that a go and everyone's being greedy and no one has interaction for anything, then sure, that's an option. But generally, if the meta's already leaning fast and you decide you want to just go faster, you're entering what's just called a turn order simulator, where it's who's going first. And that's not actually how you break the meta. That's just leaving it up to dice roll. So the way you fight against the meta is to have the proper pieces to put the game into everyone else's suboptimal game state. So when you are looking at a meta that's going really quickly and trying to get these win attempts, you want to have the cards that tell them to respectfully get fucked, and are now going to put the game into your court. And now they're playing on your home field advantage, and you have to deal with them in that way. So the first card that we are hoping to talk about today is one that we've been talking about a bunch lately, and this started from a conversation recently where me and Max were talking over Italian cards and things we want to test and include. And Max P does much more testing on Italian than I do. He's definitely, I pull a lot of information from just his test cards and games. And he's giving me this list of like 5-6 cards that he's swapping in and out. And he says the first one, like, this is trash. Why would you even bother with this? And shitting on it. Second one, trash. What are you doing? Third one, what the fuck are you thinking, man? And then he just goes Dampening Sphere. And he says Dampening Sphere. And I just stop. And I was like, hold up a second. You're cooking. Because we realize this is amazing in the current Rogsai style meta. Is Damping Sphere good against Sisay and Magda style decks? No. So be aware of that. Like, Magda often plays Damping Sphere. And that's a really good point for when we're pointing out these cards, which a lot of them are going to be more stack style pieces that we feel are really, really powerful and important to have access to right now because of the things they do. You do want to be a deck that can play them. And when I say a deck that can play them, I don't mean a deck that it has 0 non-bows with. Right? Like, I don't think the correct way to evaluate a stacks piece is to say, my deck can have absolutely nothing that this affects. Like, oh, I'm not going to play Curse Totem because I play Ranger Captain and that's my only activated ability. That's not a reason to not play a card. And so when you're looking at decks that can play Damping Sphere, you want to look at decks that are breaking parity on average with the rest of the meta to play that card. So a really good example would be Kinnan with Trinisphere. Trinisphere still affects Kinnan, right? My Dork still costs 3, my Arcane Signet costs 3, all these things. I'm still affected by Trinisphere. If I'm tapped out, my opponents still have the defense grid style part of Trinisphere. All of that still functions. But if you look at the actual play patterns of Kinnan and how it functions with Trinisphere, we break parity enormously with the rest of the meta on average, and it affects us significantly less, so it naturally puts the game into a contextual state where we are at an advantage-based position because of that piece on the board. And you want to, if you're going to consider a card like Damping Sphere, you want to be putting it in the same place. So Talion is a really good example for that, because Talion is mostly trying to sit back, mostly trying to play control, trying to cast maybe 1, maybe 2 spells in an opponent's turn when we need to interact with things. But when you look at a proactive meta, decks trying to win in the first couple turns, it's not normally Natty Thoracle on turn 2. It's normally Storm off with Ritualistic Mana into a win. Yes. And Dampening Sphere tells them to get fucked.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a big mana deck, or if you're a deck that's not trying to storm, Dampening Sphere isn't that much of a hindrance. Right? You can still pilot, you can still play, and then if you as long as you have a way to win either through it, Thoracle Consult, for example, in Italian, or you have a way to remove it, Beseech the Mirror, for example, right? Later, that gets you to your win. Like, it's just not a problem for you like it is for everyone else. And Damping Sphere does even more than you'd think, because if you play it on turn 1, even people's turn 1 or turn 2 setups are shut down by Damping Sphere. Like, they can't do Crypt into Soul Ring into whatever. It shuts that off. If people are trying to do dockside loops,
exactly do that. Actually, that would work fine.
Well, yeah, exactly that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying, though. Like I was saying, like I go land, I go Soul Ring, and I want to cast a talisman or something. Can't do that anymore. Like things get slowed down. Rog Sai in particular gets slowed down because they want to play Rog on turn 1. If they play Rog on turn 1, now they can't play the other thing they want to play to like the Paradise Mantle or the Springleaf Drum or whatever. All that stuff gets a lot slower real quick, right? It also affects like dockside loops. So if someone's trying to do like Cloudstone Curio dockside, you can't. It doesn't work, right? Because the mana cost goes up with each iteration, right? So it just shuts that off. It even shuts off things like Ancient Tomb plays, right? Mm-hmm. So Damping Sphere is extremely powerful into the meta right now, with everyone trying to go fast. So
one of the
it forces
things I really
everyone to slow down.
And appreciate about Damping Sphere is when you look at taxing effects, people are often very concerned about a Sphere of Resistance, a Trinisphere, a Thalia type effect being a defense grid for an opponent and shutting off interaction. What's really important about Damping Sphere is it does not tax your first spell. It only taxes your further spells. So if Rogside tries to storm off and you're tapped out, your free counterspell will always be free as your first spell for turn. It's only if you need to interact multiple times that you will get a taxing effect on your further pieces of interaction.
Yeah, but the deeper you go in the interaction stack, the harder it is for the player who's trying to win to get there. Like, so if you can cast 2 counter spells into what they're trying to do, generally speaking, after that, they're just the approach of putting multiple win attempts on the stack in a single turn just goes away. You just can't do it anymore with Damping Sphere in play. So it's a very effective card. You do have to be careful. Like, there's a lot of decks that it does not work with, right? Like if you're trying to do a lot of things on a turn, it's just not going to work. If you're doing things like any deck that's running like Hullbreaker Horrors is great with Damping Sphere. Loves a Damping Sphere, right? Because he's just the first thing that you bounce and you go on from there, right? So very good card. What else? What other cards are really good right now?
Well, looking towards the Sisay and Magda part of the meta, which doesn't do as much with Dampening Sphere, a card that people have played for a really long time that has just been really good in the meta is Grafdigger's Cage. And yes, it shuts down Winoto when that was a problem. It shuts down the activation style parts of Kinnan. It shuts down Breach. It shuts down Reanimation. It does all of these things super well, but then people look at decks like Sisay and Magda and these things that cheat non-creatures into play, and they're like, man, this just doesn't do what I need to do. And
not good
one
enough.
thing I have been pushing in a lot of coaching sessions recently when I'm coaching people on like control style decks like Tivit and such is I'm like, cut the Grafdigger's Cage. Sure, you can't get this with Urza Saga, but go get yourself a Weathered Runestone. Weathered Runestone is a fucking hell of a Magic card, man. I love it so much because like so many times there's been a Grafdigger's Cage when I'm playing Kennen and I'm like, okay, I would like to play this Tezzeret. I'm gonna go get Basalt Monolith. You can't do that if there's a Weathered Runestone. And Weathered Runestone does everything Grafdigger's Cage does and more at just a singular, more colorless mana. You cannot get any non-land permanent from your graveyard or library. You cannot cast spells from your graveyard or library. Every single effect that Grafdigger's Cage does, Weathered Runestone does, but better as long as you can play the card. And there's going to be some decks, like Tameshi's a really good example. Tameshi loves Grafdigger's Cage, but Tameshi can never play Weathered Runestone. It's not a card that you can fit in every deck because it does shut down more things. But if you are a deck that is just not predicated on cheating things into play very much in that fashion, I think it's a very reasonable consideration. It's something I would even be curious about for like Atraxa, where like, sure, do they play a singular finale or sometimes an invasion or a court as well, but overall not that much. It's a type of piece where Atraxa wants the game to go a little slower. Toss in a Weathered Runestone, my guy. See how it feels for you. You know?
I think any deck that's not running Breach, frankly, I would seriously consider running Runestone. Yeah, or if you're like the other one to not play it in is if you're playing, lots of green tutors. Lots of the green tutors are to the battlefield effects. You want to avoid it there, but like it's so powerful that I would consider like maybe I don't run all those green tutors. Maybe I run different tutors. Like. Because this is just so powerful, shuts down so much of the meta that it might be worth doing even in that situation. Like, just depends on your deck build. But the other one, like I think we're on a streak of 2-mana artifacts here. Like all the 2-mana artifacts seem to be like real good right now. The other one that I want to bring up is Curse Totem, and we've talked about Curse Totem before, but. God, Curse Totem is just a house right now. It shuts off.
Curse Totem has lulls. I mean, same idea. It's good against the Sisay Magda side of the meta. It's good against the Kinnan, Thrasio side of the meta. But the actual top of the meta, the decks that are doing the best currently are Blueform and Roxai, right?
It doesn't do
And
anything
so
to this.
it does nothing against them. They literally say thank you for making it so I don't have to play this, and just like it's a rare day that card is played when one of those decks is at the table, and I don't see the Rogsai or the Blue Farm win because everyone else is so successfully shut down and they are completely unaffected. So it is. I love Curse Totem's a very good card. I'm not saying don't play Curse Totem. Like, if you can successfully play Curse Totem, you should play Curse Totem. But I don't think of Curse Totem as like the solid answer to the current meta in the same way. I think of it as just a very good card that you should play if you can.
Well, I think that there's two halves to the current meta, right? There's the turbo half where you got the Rogsai and you got the Blue Farm, and then the other half of it is the Kinnan and the Sisay, right? Those are the two halves of the meta currently. And if you're on the half that's the turbo side, if you're running Rogsai, if you're running Blue Farm, I would seriously consider running Curse Totem in those decks. And I've seen people actually doing that because when you run into the Sisay and you run into the Kinnan matchups, it's going to give you a huge advantage, a huge push over the top, right? It's not good against the mirror, but it's good as turbo decks into the other half of the meta.
It's a tough spot as a turbo deck though, because if you're matched up against other turbo decks and they're not wasting card slots on that, and you are less likely to win those matchups. So that is a tough balance, for sure.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. I think when you're already on the proactive side, you want to be doing the proactive side as best you can.
I've seen some really interesting Rogsai lists lately that are running like key pieces of stacks, right? Little touches. I actually saw like Notion Thief. I saw Curse Totem. I even saw Narset.
Yeah.
I even see Narset in Rogsai. I mean, yeah.
That was the thing when I first got into CDH a year ago. That was my buddy's deck was on full wheel package Narset Notion Thief. That was the standard Rogsai deck. That was a part of it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. What other cards are good into the meta currently?
I mean, I think a current one, again, all of these are, if you can reasonably play them, a really good card right now is Torpor Orb. Torpor Orb is great. And I mean, the same idea where we said that, like, the reason I love Weathered Runestone so much is because it's hitting both sides, right? You're hitting the Kinnan, Sisay, Magda side of the meta, and you're hitting the Rogsai Blue Farm side of the meta where they can't breach, they can't Savins, they can't do any of that kind of stuff. So that's all really, really powerful. That's the thing that hits both. Torpor Orb kind of does the same, where a lot of these decks are relying on Dockside or Thassa's Oracle or those types of effects. Even for Sisay, you can't, if your backup, if your Dockside's not working, or if you can't tutor is, I'm going to make infinite mana with Derevi Emil, well, cool, shut down by a Torpor Orb. Torpor Orb actually does a lot. Another card that's specific in the things that it's hitting, where like it doesn't hit Kinnan very hard, doesn't always hit Rogsai or Blue Farm hard unless it is specifically for the Dockside, but like Dockside is the primary reason that you're playing the card. Because if
Torpor Orb,
that explosive mana, then it's hard to go.
Yeah, I mean the key things it hits is obviously Dockside. It also hits Thorkel, right? Thorkel doesn't work with it in play. It hits Gilded Drake. Not that that's crazy important, but it does hit it. It hits Tivit. Tivit's shut off completely by it. Everything that Sisay wants to do with Emil and with Derevi, shut off. Right, can't do it. So it's a powerful effect. Now it is very difficult to run, right? Because most decks that you're playing also get. I mean, that's why it's so good. But if you could find a home for it, it'll be, it's a ridiculously powerful effect right now for sure.
Yeah, all of these are
what else?
Really, like, they're in a good spot. I mean, those are kind of the big ones we had for the current meta and like fighting against it a little bit. Being aware of what type of effects are going to properly hit the things that you should expect to play against that are on a higher curve of like expected. You're going to come across these decks than normal, right? Like any blind tournament meta, you're going to have some amount of Rogsai, Sisay, whatever. But these are decks that are on an uptick, and you should be seeing more of, which means you want to slightly prepare for them more.
Yeah, agreed. Now. The meta shifts, and then the meta shifts again. So right now we're in this turbo mindset. Everything's going faster. Everyone's trying to get under each other. Inevitably, the result of that is that people will find, that maybe a stacks deck is more powerful. Maybe mid range comes back and makes turbo look bad, and all of a sudden people shift again in the other direction. So what happens then? What cards become more relevant, or like how do you think about evaluating cards when it shifts? So let's say 3 months from now stacks decks show up again, and we've shifted to a stacksier meta, which are focused on shutting down the turbo decks. how do we adjust? Like, what's your philosophy on adjusting to that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the deck you're playing, of course, and so it's not always card choice philosophy. Some of it is also playstyle philosophy, and they're intertwined for sure. So I think a really good example is if we enter a Staxy rule of law style meta again, and I decide I want to play Ob Nixilis, right? Right now, I'm not playing all B1 in my current Ob deck. One of the things I liked about all B1 was the ability to break parity on rule of law matchups. And that's something that I don't need to do right now, and it's a 5-mana do-nothing enchantment. But if Rule of Law becomes a thing again and I want to play Ob, I am slotting all B1 right back in because the play pattern of end step before my turn, Tainted Pact, I do not care what I exile, I am just getting all B1. The rest of my library is an irrelevancy, and then I'm going to go to my turn, play all B1, and win the game without casting a single other spell. It gives me an out in those types of scenarios in stacked up board states. So that's definitely a really, really big one. If I'm playing Kinnan in the current meta, if I need to pitch a card to Gemstones early and I have a Psych Rift in my hand, I might be pitching that Psych Rift. In a stacks meta where I'm like, this game's not ending quickly, and this is going to be one of the most important cards in my deck for some point in this matchup, I'm not pitching that to my Gemstones. I'm leaving that in my hand and it's staying there for a long time until I need it. So a lot of it is also play pattern philosophy, not just card choice philosophy. But yeah, I mean, if you get to a position where the meta is very stacksy and you're on something that plays some amount of stacks effects, like let's say a deck like Talion is a really good example, that's a situation where I could say, depending on what type of stacks it is, like let's say we were playing Dampening Sphere for a while, right? And Tayam comes back in waves, and Abzan Hulk becomes a thing again. I can be like, okay, I don't need the Dampening Sphere right now. If there are Rog Size or something in the pod, most likely another deck is going to have that side covered because that's what their deck is currently designed to do really, really well. So I'm able to lighten up on my personal inclusion of stacks effects to fight against that side of the meta, and I can focus on cards that allow me to break parity on the other side of the meta. Let them deal with the fast stuff, and now I'll deal with them.
Yeah, I think one thing I learned a long time ago is, your initial reaction to stacks meta in particular is to try to drop a bunch of extra removal into your deck or try to come up with answers to stacks pieces. And I found that that's just really a big mistake because, it's very, very difficult to find yourself in a game where you take on the role of stacks remover. Like, those are games you're going to lose, right? What's far better is to figure out how to play with the stacks, like accept that the stacks are there, adjust your deck so that you can still play and still win the game through the stacks. Or if that doesn't work, you play the game so that you don't lose the game and wait for someone else to play the role of stacks remover and seize the window and win. Right? Those are the ways to play with stacks. Like you do not, I'm telling you, do not try to go and like, okay, I'm going to add, wear and tear back into the deck, and I'm going to add like, I'm going to add what do you call it, reclamation sage. Stop. That is not the way to adjust to a stacks meta, right? You want to play with it, and really, I think that philosophy for me applies to however the meta shifts, right? If the meta shifts to be more turbo, then I need to build my deck to go with the turbo. Like, how do I play with the turbo? Right? I'm not going to just try to like remove stuff or have stone cold answers that do nothing but stop turbo. Like, I want things that work with the meta. And then the other way, if it goes more mid range, right? Okay, what's the best way to beat decks that are drawing lots of cards? Draw more cards. Or draw more cards to them. Yeah. Silence is good too. Sure. Yeah, but if I'm playing Talion, I don't have that luxury of having silence effects. I just have to draw more cards than they do.
Well, if we go back to a hard mid-range meta, that's where we look at something like Wandering Archaic again. Something that functions within that role of allowing us to break parity with the expected play patterns of the game.
Yes.
They're drawing a shitload of cards. They're going to have a lot of counter spells. Cool. Let's make it one cost 2 more.
Then
they don't work. Then they don't work.
Yeah. Makes sense. Cool. Okay. So I think that covers that topic. I mean, anything else you want to add before we move on?
Well, I'm curious. Obviously, we're a little early into spoiler season, but we've seen some very powerful cards. What type of shifts are you expecting from Modern Horizons 3?
Yeah, so I think a big one's going to be, I think there's going to be a return of Reanimator. And that solely on the back of the Cthulhian Nightmare, however you say it. I think that card is extremely powerful. I think you're going to see, dockside reanimation loops becoming more prevalent. I think that's going to happen. I think you also see so many powerful Grixis cards that I think Grixis is going to become even more prevalent. So I think, right now you see Blue Farm is kind of the top of the meta. I think Roxai is going to push pretty hard because it got so many good pieces.
I mean, Flare duplication for Roxai.
Flare duplication is
so fucking
sick,
stupid, dude. So stupid.
Dude, it's disgusting. Disgusting. Yeah. I think we're gonna see. I think people are gonna try really hard to make power balance work, and I think ultimately that'll fall back out again.
Yeah, I'm not super high on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Italian got some new toys, so I don't know.
Italian did get some new toys. Italian's looking a little cute. I mean, just spoiled today was the new Swan Song, where it hits all of the card types that regular Swan Song doesn't, except for battle. It hits artifact, creature, or planeswalker, which you look at that, and my immediate reaction was, this sucks, right? It doesn't hit other counter spells. And then I was like, there's some decks that are actually playing Stern Scolding, and Stern Scolding is a 1-mana counter spell that only hits some creatures. This is a 1-mana counter spell that hits any artifact, creature, or planeswalker. This is just significantly upgraded Stern Scolding.
Yeah, it's bonkers. And you know what I'm most excited about that card? Is they're going to have more Swan tokens again, finally.
Yeah. Let's get some new Swannies.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That one's really good. I mean, obviously the free blue counter we've talked about a little bit.
And we'll do a set review at some point.
Why do you think overall you're going to see an influx in reanimation? I understand reanimation of dockside loops. Like, I definitely think Cthulhu Nightmare, or however the hell that card is pronounced, Cthulhu, whatever it is. But like, I understand that, but generically Reanimator overall, why do you say that?
I mean, I think the energy synergy with Nightmare is going to be relevant. I think there's the Emperor of Bones is really interesting. I think reanimation strategies around like Hoarding Broodlord and Abdel have been kind of neglected. They just haven't gone anywhere because I don't think there wasn't critical mass of those effects, and I think that there are now. So I think we're going to see people try to revive some of those decks to make them work. And there's a lot of decks that I think can use them that haven't been seen in a while. Things like,
you're just on Tim Jessica brain, bro.
Well, no, it is. I mean, I'm brewing hard on it right now, so that is a big piece of it. But I mean, I think even things like Timna Thrasios might come back a little bit. I could see.
Dockside, though, right?
They don't need Dockside. They have World Gorger Dragon. I mean, not World Gorger Dragon. Hoarding Broodlord. They just go Hoarding Broodlord and win the game, or Abdel win the game. Right, infinite mana with Thrasios, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what kind of combos you can efficiently get there. Like, I do think Pier has always been a bit of a trap with Broodlord. I'm not a huge fan of Pier, because every single time that someone's on Jihada,
you don't need Pier. There's no reason to run Pier.
Well, I tell people, I'm like, okay, so you Broodlord and you Saw in half, and you get Burn Offering and Breach, and then you recast Saw in half and get 2 more tutors. Like,
right, just to be clear, so you can create 8 mana, and a tutor, and you can't win.
Yeah,
I think you can. I'm pretty sure you can win.
A lot of time that should lead to a victory. But it's easier when you have Breach, because that's the efficient win normally from there, because it also gives you repeatable tutors with more Saw and halves and such like that. Versus, I think in Sans Red, you're probably going for Thoracle would be my guess, but like it's just a little bit harder. You could definitely do Burn. You could do something similar to what Sam Sapper did when he was trying to neoform as Atraxa into a Broodlord for that one event that he just like dunked on people, where his line was like, you obviously do this with a silence effect, my god, but he was getting Sacrifice and Yawgmoth's Will after Saw in half, and then that gives you an additional Sacrifice and additional Saw in half.
And you don't even have to run. These aren't even bad cards. Like, you don't realize how good some of these cards are. Like, you have Sacrifice, right? Like, nobody runs Sacrifice until you realize, like, oh, actually, this is a pretty nice ritual. I go and sack my Timna and I get 3 mana. That's not bad, right? That's actually pretty good. So and there's just so many ways to make it work, and I think it's underplayed, and I think we're going to see more of it. But yeah, I think. What about you? What do you think?
I mean, I do think if you generically look at what Modern Horizons has given us, with the exception of Flare of Denial and Flare of Duplication, which kind of both lean as good answers and good protection, most of what we've seen from Modern Horizons, when you look at the cards that are being released, are cards that allow you to be better proactively. Generically speaking, like there was a new Ob card today that's every time you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you deal 1 damage to each opponent, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm so excited for this card. But like, it's a bunch of cards like that, right? Cthulhu Nightmare, that card, like lots of little things that are saying, I'm going to get better at doing what I want to be doing. And not a ton of cards that say, I'm going to get better at disallowing you from what you want to be doing. which I think generically keeps us in this more proactive state.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, I think it's time to transition to the second topic, and this is a more of a theoretical idea here, and that is, if you look at CDH as a whole and you look at tournament results over the last several years, there's a problem. There's a significant problem, I think, and that is the effect of seeding order on results. And Datadog came out with this graph that I'll put on screen for everyone to see, where it shows the win rate by turn order across 5,321 CDH tournament games, and includes draws. And it shows the win rate for each of those seed positions. So if you're in first seed, the win percentage is 25.53%. If you're in second seed, it's 22.32%. So both of those seem pretty reasonable. If you go down to fourth seed, it's 14.28%. So that's more than a 10% difference in wins going in fourth seed versus first seed. And almost, say what?
Pretty significant.
Huge. It's huge. It's like, to me, it's mind blowing, because it just means that there's like, if you go into a tournament where everyone has great tournaments where they get first seed a few times or second seed a few times, and then everyone has bad tournaments where they get fourth seed, which seems like an obscene number of times. And that's going to have a dramatic impact on your ability to convert and your ability to do well in tournaments. So this is a significant problem in the community right now, and we have, there's no answers for it. Like, no one's proposed anything at this point. No one's even really talking about it, other than like in smoky rooms, like in here. I guess at this point, you know.
So the question then is, what's the best answer to it, right? And this is very similar to, we had a conversation not long ago about, how could we fix
partner commanders?
Yeah. And the conversation there was, well, you have to discourage that, or like not just discourage it, but there has to be an actual hit to expected EV and value from it, right? And that could be something like shared commander tax, or something like one less mulligan. Whatever it is, it was saying you need to take something away from them to try and even the playing field. And I think in a very similar vein of thought, when comparing first seed to fourth seed, or whatever combination you want to do it, you either need to take away value from the early seed positions, or you need to add value to the late seed positions. So the thought process there is, you could say something like, okay, first, maybe the person who goes first doesn't get a draw on their first turn, or something like that. You could say the person who goes first gets one less mulligan, so it doesn't actually affect gameplay, but it affects overall expected value of good hands. Right, that's taking away value from the other positions. And then if you're looking at something like fourth position, you could say, okay, if you are in fourth seat, you get to scry one after you're done with mulliganing. Something like that. Something that adds a little bit of value to their position. These things are small, right? And we don't want them to be big, because we don't want to overarch. I still think that when you're playing CDH, you should be hoping to be on the play. Like, I don't think we should make it beneficial thing to be going fourth, but I do think that there is positive value and expectation from saying, okay, you're in fourth seat, you scry 2, third seat scries 1, something like that. Allow yourself to set up, give you a little bit of value, and see what that does to the win rates. I still think it's probably at its healthiest in a position that like first is favored over fourth. Like, we got to a position that was like 25% for first seat, 23% for second seed, 22% for third seed, 20% for fourth seed. I'd be overjoyed. I think that'd be
fantastic. Great. Yeah,
that'd be great, right? So find something that pushes us towards those ranges, because we do have to give them something or take away something. I'm more a fan of giving them something than taking away from the early turns, personally.
Yeah, I agree. The hardest thing about it is, the biggest deficit tends to be not cards, but resources. The fact that by the time it gets to your turn, everyone's played mana, everyone has at least one mana available. It makes it hard. Like, it's hardest for you to resolve spells in fourth seat. If you're trying to cast a Mystic Remora in fourth seat, you have the highest chance of it not resolving. Put it that way. So you start off just so far behind. But the problem is, I don't think there's any way to fix that. Like, we can't do something like, hey, every fourth seat automatically gets Gemstone in your hand. Like, that's not feasible or reasonable to do, right? So I don't think there's anything there. So it has to be card based. The obvious choice, like you said, is just turn 1, seat 1 does not draw, right? That's the easiest thing to do. But I'm not sure if that's impactful enough, because it doesn't make up any ground for fourth seat.
Very impactful. Right, but it does make up ground for fourth seat. Like any time that there's if you think of it as like an ebb of flow, if there's this total value, which this might be the wrong way to think about it, but it's a way to think about it. If you think of it as there's this collective value that exists in a CDH game of the way resources just go from everybody. It's a similar thought to like breaking parity with Trinisphere almost in a way. Even though it's not actually giving me anything, it's just putting me in a better position than you. And that's naturally gaining me value. And so like first seat not getting a draw, taking away from that value from first seat automatically increases the value given to second, third, and fourth.
Yeah, this may sound crazy, but this is just me brainstorming. But one thing I could imagine doing is first seat does not draw, second seat doesn't draw either, but they get a scry. Third seat regular draw, and fourth seat gets to scry and then draw. Like that to me seems like it would kind of even things out a little bit more than just having first seat be affected, because I think the gap between second seat and fourth seat is also too big, right? Because it's 22 point something percent for second seat and all the way down at 14% for fourth seat. So I think you need something to make up for.
By the way, it was 18% for third, for anyone wondering.
18% for third, which is still pretty low. But like, I think if you do those things and you do it that way, I think that makes up a lot of ground. You're gonna have to test the crap out of it to figure out how much it impacts things. Maybe make one change at a time and see how it goes. But those are all things that can be done. I've also heard. I've heard all kinds of crazy suggestions. I've heard about things like, you get an extra free mulligan if you're in fourth seat is another thing I've heard, which isn't terrible.
So I really like those suggestions because they don't affect gameplay. Like once the game has started, the game is the same. That's pre-game value adjustment, which is still going to affect EV, right? Because if you give fourth seat an extra free mulligan, on average, fourth seat will start with a better hand. That's just the natural conclusion from giving them an extra free mulligan. But it doesn't actually affect how we play the game and are used to playing the game at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm kind of a fan of that.
Yeah, the other thing I could see happen is if WotC was paying attention enough, you could print some cards that make a difference. Mm-hmm. Do have more gemstone caverns like cards printed.
Yeah.
Something that says like if you're going last, if you're last in turn order, then you can do X. Would be kind of sweet to see on a card.
How would you make something like that playable though, right? Because if you look at gemstone caverns and the fact it's ubiquitous in CDH because it's such free value and so free to play, but the realistic thing of it is there is a 75% chance in every single game that you are not going first.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the reality. Versus if they were to print a card that specifically cares about you going last, that's only a 25% chance. So how do you make something like that worth running when it's only 25% of the time versus 75%?
It has to be a powerful effect. And it has to, like in my mind, it has to make up significant resource disadvantage. So it has to be something like, you get 3 mana on turn 1. It's a Black Lotus for fourth seat. Yeah, Jeweled Lotus, or Black Lotus kind of effect, but only if you're in fourth seat. That's what
every time we talk about anything, you just like try and sneak away
unban Black Lotus
into the format. Yeah, like what the fuck?
What can I tell you?
Have you ever resolved a Black Lotus in a game?
No, never.
Okay, I didn't know.
I've held the Black Lotus once. I have. Fine. I have an oversized card, Black Lotus. That's pretty hot.
Was it in a slab or was it a just like
no? It was bare cardboard.
It was actual naked Black Lotus.
Naked, unlimited.
Unlimited. That's still an expensive card.
It was like LP. It was pretty sweet. It was pretty.
Why would you even touch that with your greasy fucking fingers? What are you doing?
I washed my hands first, dude.
Yeah,
washed my hands first. Dried them. Made sure they were dry. And then, it was pretty hot.
Yeah.
Felt good.
Felt good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how much they'd be worth right now if they unbanned it? It would be crazy.
Let's not have every conversation divulge into unbanned Black Lotus.
Do it.
No. Give me turn 1 Con Sphinx. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. But only if you're in fourth seat. Only if you're in fourth seat.
What does it do if you're not in fourth seat though? Like because you're not going to play a card that's
it taps for colorless
75% of the time.
Yeah, it taps for colorless.
I wouldn't play that.
You would. I would play it. Sure, you would.
You would play a card.
A land that taps for colorless.
A colorless do nothing land the majority of the time, and then only if you're fourth seat, only
you could
on
play
your
it and
first
sacrifice. You could play it and sacrifice it for 3 mana of any color.
Oh, so at any point you can do that, but it has to be the turn you played it.
Yes. Exactly. So you're in fourth seat. It says if you're last in turn order, you may sacrifice this card.
Yeah.
And add 3 mana of any color. And it's a land that taps for colorless.
Let us know in the comments if you would run Gemstone Lotus.
Yeah. Cavern of Lotus Caverns.
Lotus Caverns. Yeah, Lotus Caverns. Yeah.
I think it's legit. I would play it. It's not.
Play that.
Yeah, I wouldn't play it. Maybe not in a 5-color deck, but in like a 2 or 3 color deck.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely run it.
Would I play
it's a colorless land. What's the downside? It's not that bad.
I'd probably play it a knob if I'm being honest. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it makes up a huge amount of resource. Real quick. When you start from behind. So it makes sense to me. Or
you're cooking.
Yeah.
If the way WotC would do it, if they wanted to push it, they would say, as it enters the battlefield, choose a color. This land can tap for the chosen color.
Sure, you could do that. It's still fine, but I don't think you even need to do that. I think it could be 3 mana of any one color, and it's fine. And you have to sacrifice it. So you sacrifice it at 3 mana of any color. It's not even that crazy because you could play City of Traders now, right, and add taps for 2, right? Or Crystal Vein taps for 2. Like there's a lot of it's not that crazy. It's colorless, so this is much more powerful, but much more conditional.
Very
but it's so conditional.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, I like it.
No, I am thinking about this. A lot of decks would actually play this. Low color decks or decks that are ramping into a specific commander, like Narset and Light Master. The OG Narset 100% plays that. There's also we were talking just randomly about Narset and Light Master because I've been playing him in the same meta as Jacob, the guy who's been just like cooking people in that deck for a while. In Modern Horizons, the new like mono red land is a gives a creature haste land. Again,
yeah, I saw that.
They're like taps for 2 mana as well to cast a creature spell. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh, I think you have to pay 1 though. You have to pay 1 and tap it to add 2, right?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up.
It doesn't net you. It doesn't net you additional mana. It's just it's 2 red. Yeah,
if you have
it filters.
Exclamation.
Yeah. Yeah, we're building. Yeah. Jund some craziness that I don't know.
You know what I brewed the other day? This is so off topic, but it's so cool.
What's that?
We'll put this list in the description below. So I guess a big thing for Pride Month, a lot of LGSs are running like all legends have partner for an event.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't care about making a deck for that as competitive in CDH as it could be. I just want to do something that's fun.
Oh yeah.
So I brewed Sakashima Etali.
Oh my god.
So you get all the blue clones and you get a clone in the command zone.
What? That's not fun. What are you talking about? It's not fun. It's so fun for you.
Yeah. No, dude, in goldfishing it won on turn 2 like every game. It was fucking crazy.
You think?
Yeah,
that's wild.
It plays 0 counterspells. It plays 0. I don't care about that.
Why would you? Yeah, no.
Yeah. No, the deck is crazy.
It's just fucking really cool. Just Italian clones and mana. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's all you need. You need nothing else.
Pretty much.
It's like Gyruda, but full crack, basically.
Yeah. It's really fun. And what's nice is if you actually have out the Sakashima Etali and you go into like Rionia or something, then it's like, okay, I would like to make 6 more Etalis, but I actually have all the Etalis, so they can just swing and kill people.
That's wild. Yeah, I want to do that, but I want to do Etali Gyruda as partners.
So someone recommended that, and my problem with it is then you're in this like shitty state of which one are you cloning, right? Like it's just I don't care about Gyruda. I want Etalis. You know what, dude? Etali's so much fun, dude. Etali's so much fun. You just fucking steal a bunch of shit. And you know the best thing about adding blue? You get to play Displacer Kitten in the main deck.
Oh.
That's
disgusting.
It's so good, dude.
I play Etali. I flip a ritual. I cast my kitten. I cast a ritual. I flicker my Etali.
It goes
Oh my
infinite.
god.
No,
It's done.
Etali
You're done.
Displacer Skin,
Yeah.
No, Etali Displacer Skin goes infinite because you're never going to hit 4 creatures. In
Yeah,
the CH
exactly.
game.
You're gonna hit
Yeah.
a non-creature spell every flip.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to build something equally cracked, and we'll have to like host a game night on our
Crutch.
Discord where we'll just play that shit. That'd be great. I gotta think a little bit. I'm gonna cook something up. It's gonna be great.
Etali Sakashima, bro. Etali Sakashima.
Yeah.
And I was like, someone was like, well, why don't we just go 5-color Dino and add in black and white? And so we started brewing that. And honestly, it was worse because then you lose all the fun. You're like, okay, well, the deck is objectively better if I play just all of these really, really good cards. But then it's just not doing what I want to be doing, which is just doing crack shit with Etali.
You basically just regular Etali plus clones, and that's basically it. You don't do anything else with that blue.
We started with 5-color Etali as Etali Najila as like the generic 5-color commander to add to it, and then I was like, hold up, actually we're gonna do Etali Sisay because technically, if we produce a lot of mana, then Sisay can get us a meal, which is really nice.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's wild. Well, I like it.
We'll
definitely put the list up. I want to look through it too and see if I can.
Super cool.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much all we got for today. Pretty exciting again about hitting 2,000 subscribers. Reminder to comment below. What your favorite moment of Colors Are a Crutch podcast is. What was it? And what made you happy? Suggestions that you think might make the show better. And with that, Max, you wanna take us out?
Thank you so much for listening to the Colors Are a Crutch podcast. Please do not forget to like and subscribe and comment below. If you want to give us even more support, we got a Patreon. You can join that. Also in the description below. We got all funds of tiers and cool perks for you there. If you want to join the conversation outside of YouTube, we also have a Discord that you can join from a description. A link in the description, also below. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. We look forward to talking to you next time.